Hi everyone. Last class we have discussed the historical computer fundamentals. I think this class we are going to see the historical perspective of the various computers generated earlier. So the historical perspective, computer generation have started more than 300 years before. Especially the original generation started in 1900s. A series of increasing the mechanical devices and the innovations of these devices pulled the computer industry to go for designing the automation of the addition, subtraction and the multiplication operations. Especially the gear wheels, levers and the pulleys were used for the basic construction of computers. So they used holes on punched cards for mechanically sensed and used to control the automatic sequencing of a list of calculations. So here the punched cards, the several industries were used for making attendance, and even the names are punched on the cards, and so that the sequential processing will be carried out with the help of punched cards. So the punched card is the first ever the automation of employees attendance system and even batch processing. After that, then the use of logarithms and the trigonometric functions approximated by the polynomials leads to the mathematical background of computer systems. The output of the punched cards, normally the punched on the cards and printed on the paper so that they can able to keep track of the attendance of the employee, and the employee personal informations were printed on the punched cards will be taken into data pre-processing or data processing. After that, electromechanical relay devices such as those used in early the telephone switching systems provided the means for performing the logic functions in computer built in the late 1930s and early 1940s. So this is a starting stage where the computer fundamentals were evaluated. The original computer manufacturing started during the World War II. So the first electronic computer was designed at the University of Pennsylvania using the vacuum tube technology. So vacuum tube technology acts as a processing element in the first computer for radios and the military radar equipment. So the first computer designed is used only for military purpose, especially during the World War II. Vacuum tube circuits were used to perform logic operations in the earlier computer and to store data also. So the advantage of vacuum tubes, the size of almost all the initial days computers, they come up with the vacuum tube circuits. So by using the vacuum tube we can perform some logic operations, even we can store little bit data using vacuum tube technologies also. So this technology, vacuum tube technology, initiated the computer era, modern computer era, using electronic and digital computers. After that vacuum tubes, the development of the technologies, parallel development of the technologies, they helped the computer industry to fabricate processors, memory devices and I/O units of computers has been divided into 4 different generations. We can divide the entire computer generations into 4 different categories. The categories of computers, or we call it as generations of computers. Generations of computers based on what is the processing device used on the particular electronic device. So we can divide into 4 categories. The first generation computers, they are ranging from 1945 to 1955. After that, the second generation computers, all the computers developed in between 1955 to 1965, they called second generation computers. Third generation computers are ranging from 1965 to 1975. Almost the fourth generation computers, they started from 1975 to still. Okay, so still we are in the 4th generation computers. Let's see one by one how the first generation computers were evolved. What are the basic components of the first generation computers? So how first computers are operated. So the mainly in the first generation computer, the key concept is stored program was introduced. So before to that first generation computers, there is no stored program concept. The first generation computer itself, they introduced the stored program concept. That means the computer programs were stored into the computers, so that the stored program will start working on previous to that, the programs were inserted in the form of floppy disk. That means 4/4-inch floppy disk. The later that, the programs stored in the external devices used to operate the system. But the first generation computer, they started to store the program concept, so that programs were stored within the system itself. So program and the data were located on the same memory as they are today. That is another important characteristics of first generation computers. The third generation computer, the first generation computers also given existing programs and data for preparing and loading new programs and data. The first generation computers, most of the first generation computers, assembly language was used to prepare programs. So most of the programs written during the first generation computers are assembly language programs. After that, assembly language programs are translated into machine understandable format, so that the corresponding user program were executed by the machine language. Other basic arithmetic operations were performed on few milliseconds. Arithmetic operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division operations were performed on the first generation computer with the help of stored program, with the help of vacuum tubes, and they were performed using vacuum tube technology to implement logic functions. The another important feature of first generation computer, they provided 100 to 1000 fold increase in its speed related to the earlier mechanical and electromechanical technology. So the first generation computers, they are almost more than 100 to 1000 times faster than the earlier conventional mechanical devices and the electromechanical devices used in the earlier computer. After that, a mercury delay line memory was used at first. So this is a first mercury delay line memory. This is the first memory used in first generation computers. So this memory, even though it's not capable of storing more, but this mercury delay line memory concept was triggered the modern computers about the working of the memory concepts. The first generation itself, there are I/O functions were performed by devices similar to typewriters. Also magnetic core memories and magnetic tap storage devices were also developed during the first generation computers. So first generation computers, magnetic taps were used, or magnetic core memories were used, and magnetic taps were used for the external storage. Also there is a mercury delay memory is used. All the operations were performed using vacuum tubes. Okay, these are all some examples. These are vacuum tubes earlier used in the processing system. This is a computer where the first computer used with the help of vacuum tubes. So what is the advantage of first generation computers when compared to electromechanical devices before to that first generation? So these computers will perform faster than the previous conventional computers. Always also they used to perform some logical and basic arithmetical functions. But what is the problem of first generation computers? Since vacuum tubes generates more heat, so that noise will be produced, it leads to the poor performance, or maybe the lack of accuracy in the calculations. That's what they need, an alternate approach to vacuum tubes. That's what the another component, electronic component, replaced vacuum tubes by the transistor. Since the transistor was invented at the AT&T Bell Laboratories in the late 1940s, so they found that the transistor will be the best replacement or best alternative for the vacuum tubes. So vacuum tubes are replaced by transistors. So quickly replaced by vacuum tubes implementing the logic functions. Now the second generation computers, transistor replaced vacuum tubes. So the transistor will do all arithmetical and logical functions. The fundamental technology shift marked the start of the second generation computer. So any second generation computer, we can identify easily what is the processing device used. If the processing device used in any computer, if it is a transistor, then we can say that it is a second generation computer. Also, the magnetic core memories and magnetic drum storage devices were widely used in the second generation. So second generation computers itself, they started using magnetic core memories, also magnetic drum storage devices for permanently storing the information in the system itself. So magnetic storage devices, magnetic disk storage devices were also developed, which will enhance the permanent storage of data or the data processed in the computer system. And what is the language used in the second generation computers? The earliest high-level language such as Fortran were developed, making the preparation application programs much easier. So the Fortran is the first high-level programming language when compared to the assembly language programs. The second generation computers, Fortran is the first high-level language program used in second generation computers. It makes the programmers to do productive programs, and they executed the programs in the second generation computers. So the changes from the first generation computers and the second generation computers, the first generation computers produce noise, produce heat, so that the size of the first generation computers are also huge because the vacuum tube sizes are more. So in contrast to the vacuum tubes, the transistor based second generation computers, they are come up with less reduced size because transistors occupies very small space or occupies very small size, as well as because of the size reduction, the second generation computers will do the same kind of operations in faster mode when compared to the vacuum tubes, also with the reduced size. Another advantage is when compared to the vacuum tubes, the transistor will not produce much heat and noise. So that is a second advantage of the second generation computers. The second generation computers, the programmers start using the high level programming languages in this series. Okay. So another advantage of second generation computers, compilers were developed. The compilers were developed in order to translate the high level programming instructions through Fortran is converted into machine level languages. So to translate these high level language programs into assembly language, which was then translated into executable machine language program. Actually, so the compilers were first used in the second generation computer. IBM became a major computer manufacturer during this time, because during that time the IBM will supports to generate or supports to manufacture the different versions of computers using the transistors. We'll see some the models. This is actually the transistor, and these are all the example diagrams developed or manufactured by using the transistors. So when we compare the vacuum tubes based computers, the size of the computers were reduced enormously. So at the same time, the speed of the computers also increased. Okay. The second, we will move on to third generation computers. So from the second generation computers, the mathematicians identified that the usage of transistors will increase the speed of the processing. At the same time, it will reduce the noise, also reduce the size of the computer. Because of these advantages, the Texas Instruments and Fairchild Semiconductor developed the ability to fabricate many transistors on a single silicon chip. So if the number of transistors are increased, at the same time the execution speed of the system also get increased. So they think over in another point how to integrate multiple transistors on a single chip, so that the chip technology evolved during this time. So the people, the chip technology replaced the number of transistors, so that more number of transistors are fabricated on a single chips. So the chip technology evolved here. So the chip technology, the advantage of chip technology, it enabled faster and less costly processor. So it will create a major impact on processor manufacturing industry in such a way that IC chips were used to integrate more number of transistors and also memory elements to be built along with the processor circuit, especially like registers were involved, combinedly involved on the processor manufacturing. Apart from that, integrated circuit memories began to replace magnetic core memories. So magnetic core memories were replaced by the integrated circuit memories. So this technological development marked the beginning of the third generation computers. Once the people start thinking over IC chips, then the computer who comes up with integrated chips rather than transistors. So the integrated chip development is used in computer processor manufacturing also, so that any computer that comes with integrated chips of transistors, then we can call it as those computers are belongs to third generation computers. So other developments included like introduction of microprogramming, micro instruction execution, and parallelism and pipelining concepts also developed and introduced during the third generation computers in order to increase the execution speed of the computers. So parallelism and pipelining concepts, it will support the system to increase the speed, so that with the help of microprogramming concepts. And another advantage of third generation computers, operating system was introduced during that time. So operating system software allowed the efficient sharing of computer resources by several user programs, so that operating system act as an interface so that many users can able to share the system resources. So the operating system provide, earlier we have multi-user environment of an operating system. So operating system was first introduced in the third generation computer concept. Another advantage, another important characteristics of third generation computers, cache memory and virtual memory concepts were developed. It will still, these two memories, especially the cache memory and the virtual memories, still support the system to enhance the speed. So usage of cache memory, virtual memory further enhanced the speed of the computer system. So cache memory makes the main memory appear faster than it is, and virtual memory makes it appear larger. So these two concepts we are going to study in detail on the fourth unit. So usage of cache memory, it is in between the primary memory and the processor. So cache memory content make the execution or make the reduction in time of the data transfer between the processor and the cache memory, instead of taking the data directly from the primary memory, so that the time taken to execute a particular instruction is reduced. Also during that time, mainframe computers from IBM and the line of PDP mini computers from the Digital Equipment Corporations were developed, and they dominate the commercial products of the third generation computers. So second generation computers, first generation computers are not commercial computers. These computers were used only in the research laboratories and for military purpose. It is not given to the common men for any general purpose usage. But third generation computers initiated the concept of commercial computers, so that the computers were used for commercial purpose. So these are all some example of third generation computers. So when compared to the second generation computers, now third generation computers are still in compact size, so that at the same time the speed of the computers also get increased. Okay. Next we'll see the fourth generation computers. That means the modern generation will start from the 1970s, where the integrated circuit fabrication techniques had evolved to the point where the complete processors and a large section of the main memory of smaller computers could be implemented on a single chips. That means large scale integrated chips and very large scale integrated chips, they enhanced the computers. They moved from third generation computers to fourth generation computers that started in 1970s. So the integrated circuit, still they can able to add more number of thousands of millions of transistors on a single chip. It will make the system speed more. At the same time, the chip technology made the size reduction, so that the third generation computers are still further reduced size. They will come under fourth generation computers. So this marked the start of the fourth generation computers. What is the advantage of fourth generation computers? Tens of thousands of transistors could be placed on a single and a small chip. That technology, we can call it as very large scale integrated manufacturing, and is going to describe this technology, VLSI technology. A complete processor fabricated on a single chip become known as a microprocessor. Now the fourth generation, earlier computer, they used the concept of microprocessor, in which multiple or more than tens of thousands of transistors were integrated on a single chip. It leads to the modern computer, they use the microprocessor concept. Also, the companies like Intel, they place a very they provide concrete role on the development of processor manufacturing. Now Intel plays almost all the processing manufacturers are the Intel, National Semiconductor, Motorola, Texas Instruments, and Advanced Micro Devices have been driving the forces to these technologies. So these companies, especially the Intel and Motorola and Texas Instruments, they contributed well to the development of VLSI technology, so that the modern processor concept comes from these two companies. Now almost all the computers in the world today, the processors are manufactured, they comes from the majority of this industry, especially it comes from the Intel. So the current VLSI technology enables the integration of multiple processors on a single core also. That means the Intel corporation, they coined towards multiple chips on the single core, okay, and the cache memories on a single chip. It enables enhance the speed of further enhancement of the speed. That means a multi-core concept or multi-processor concept was introduced during that time. Also, a particular form of VLSI technology called field programmable gate arrays were used in this category of computers. Also, they implement processor, memory, and I/O circuits on a single chip to meet the requirements of specific applications, also especially in the embedded computer system. So embedded computer system also developed on the fourth generation computers. So commercial purpose computers, embedded computers were developed during the fourth generation with the help of the processors manufactured from Intel and National Semiconductor, Motorola, and Texas Instruments. Also, the sophisticated computer-aided design tools comes into picture to develop FPGA-based products quickly, especially for drawing-based, CAD design-based. Companies like Ultra and Xilinx provide this technology along with the required software development systems. Embedded computer systems, portable notebook computers, versatile mobile telephone handsets are now in widespread use, where the embedded computer systems comes into market well. Also now the modern computers comes with the portability. That means because of the reduction in size, very reduced in size, so anyone can able to take a computer in the form of notebooks, in the form of laptops, in the form of laptops. So the portability will make the users can take their systems to anywhere else. Also, the fourth generation computers, they triggered the concept of personal computers. So Apple Corporation, they designed a new computer system for only personal purpose. So those computers are called personal computers. The personal computers have enough requirements or enough software and hardware requirements for single user environment. Before that there was only multi-user environment, but after the personal computers comes into picture, all the computers are now personal computers. That it leads to the individual operating system, individual hardware, individual software required for a single user environment. So there are variety of powerful operating platform also introduced on the 4th generation computers. Also the parallelism and the hierarchical memories have been introduced during the 4th generation computers. Now various hierarchies were available: primary memory, secondary memory, auxiliary memory, cache memory, even registers. All these different hierarchical memories concepts were introduced during the 4th generation computers. The important thing in the 4th generation computer is the usage of or the manufacture of the supercomputers and the grid computers at the upper and high performance computing is required, especially satellite launching and nuclear performance testing. All we need a high speed computers which will process the data as early as possible. And these devices were mainly used for weather forecasting and any scientific and engineering applications, and mainly they used for scientific simulations environment. Okay, these are all the 4th generation computers. So I can show you some of the devices, some of the computers which are 4th generation computers. These are all example for 4th generation computers. These are all the Intel processor, Core i7 processor, Core 2 quad processor, Pentium processors. So these are all the processor development. So this is actually the microprocessor. This is a earlier level, the conventional processors were used. Later becomes Pentium, then Core processor. Now we are using I series of processors. So upon this four different generations, we can open any system. If I found the computers have vacuum tubes, we can classify those computers are 1st generation computers. If any computers have manufactured with the help of transistors, then we can classify as those computers are 2nd generation computers. Then the 3rd generation computers comes up with some LSI, large scale integrated chips, and the 4th generation computers comes up with the modern processor environment. Okay, so these are all the equivalent computers. Vacuum tubes, this is the 1st generation computers. A transistor, this is the 2nd generation computers. The computers made up of chips, and the computers made up of the 4th generation. These are the chips. Now the modern computers comes with some graphical concept also. So these are all the modern computers we are using now. So starting from the conventional computers, how the computers were evolved, what is the modern size of computers, how the graphical user interface from the black and white monitor to color monitor were introduced. Now the computers were used in several different applications with the different display technologies with the help of graphical user environment, and the modern operating system also supports for the graphical user environment. So in the next session, we will see how the buses were organized and how the data, what are the different data types were used in computer organization. Thank you.